Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Socratic Project at the City Colleges of Chicago's Olive-Harvey College. I am Professor Khaldoun Sweis, and I have the privilege of teaching at this institution. This is number 10 in our series of debates on the ultimate questions. We seek to cultivate and provoke critical, philosophical, and innovative thinking in our students by addressing questions of ultimate human concern. We do this by bringing in scholars from a variety of disciplines to engage, to debate, and to dialogue with each other on these issues. Today's debate is on the topic of communism versus capitalism. We're going to be welcoming our speakers in a moment. Before I do that, there are some logistical issues involved. If you are in this class, or a class, in the college and need credit for attending, please do sign in the sheet at the end of the debate. They will be available on the tables. Also, if you plan to engage our speakers in any type of question and answer or comment format, please do fill out the media sheet outside. It's a little legal waiver form. Our ushers will indicate where that is. Please do fill that out. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the City Colleges of Chicago's Olive-Harvey College Socratic Project. Let me introduce our debaters, and we will be going through this in a standard debate format. The first of our debaters we're going to welcome is Dr. Paul Gomberg. Dr. Paul Gomberg is a graduate of Harvard University, where he received his doctorate. He has taught philosophy at Chicago State University since 1995. He is the author of How to Make Opportunity Equal, Race and Contributive Justice, published in 2007. He is a communist and a member of the Progressive Labor Party for 40 years. Dr. Gomberg will argue in favor of communism and against capitalism. Please welcome Dr. Gomberg. Dr. Ben Callard, PhD from Berkeley, has taught philosophy at Mills College, the City University of New York, since 2008, and currently at the University of Chicago. His courses engage issues of distributive justice. Dr. Callard will defend capitalism against communism. Please welcome him. And finally, I am Khaldoun Sweis. I'm professor of philosophy here at the college, and I'm privileged to be here. I've been teaching here for a little while, and hopefully a lot longer, depending on how this debate goes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin the process. Please give them your undivided attention, and there will be a time of Q&A where you'll be able to engage our debaters with some questions and comments at the end. Let me go ahead and begin and welcome our first debater for the evening, who has 10 minutes. We're going to be watching the time exactly, and I do have some timekeepers here. So the timekeepers, mark your watches. We're going to be beginning. Dr. Gomberg, you may begin with your first 10 minutes.
I want to thank Dr. Sweis and the City Colleges of Chicago for the invitation to participate in this debate. I'm very glad to be here, and I'm glad to see all of you, and I look forward to our conversation. I passed out a little summary of some of the points I want to cover, but it includes much more than I will be able to cover in the first 10 minutes, but perhaps other points can come up in later parts of the debate or in conversation. This past Saturday, I participated in a march in Calumet City protesting the police murder of Stefan Watts. Stefan was a 15-year-old boy with autism. His father called the Calumet City Police when he had a difficulty controlling him, as he was advised to do by a social worker. By the time the police arrived at his home, Stefan had calmed down, and he told the police there was no need for them to come in. They insisted on coming in anyway. They found Stefan, who was holding a butter knife and was afraid the child had autism. and they shot him twice in the chest. One shot hit him in the heart and killed him. The protest Saturday represents part of what it means to me to be a communist, which means that you fight racism and you fight the brutalities that the system of capitalism creates for the working class. Well, what does the shooting of Stephen Watts by Calumet City cops have to do with capitalism? Well, you could start with what capitalism values and what capitalism does not value. The system of capitalism is based on making profits for the capitalists. It is not based on the best life for our class, the working class. What has happened to the programs that ought to be available for children with special needs, such as Stephen Watts? Those programs have been reduced, and we'll want to explore, I'll want to explore in this discussion, why those programs have been reduced in the current period. There are difficulties for young people in attending schools, but the schools are being defunded. The programs that are available to help children in the schools are decreased. More and more of the schools are inadequate for teaching our children. And that tells us something about what the system of capitalism values. It values world-class education and opportunity for a very few. For most children, it has very little to offer. In the city of Chicago, in Chicago public high schools, the graduation rate for black male ninth graders 4 years later is 39%. For black female ninth graders 4 years later, 54%. What I propose to you is that none of that is an accident. That is, the schools are driving young people out, and those who graduate are often unprepared for a kind of job that would make them some money. And the reason for that is they don't have many of those jobs. There's not much opportunity out there. So the schools are preparing children for what's out there. In the United States, there are 7.3 million people in jail, prison, on probation, or on parole. And probably some of the people sitting in this room have family members or friends who fall into one of those categories. 12 million people in the United States are classified as ex-felons. Another 8.25 million people in the United States are undocumented workers who are in the labor force. 4 million fewer women are now receiving TANF support for their families than received AFDC support in 1996 when the welfare reform was passed. That tells you what capitalism values. And it tells you how capitalists try to get cheap labor. Because all of those categories I mentioned are people who are often forced into the labor market, but without the same rights as other workers. So one of those workers that I talked about in the labor market can be told, and these stories come from people I've known, on the job, you clock out and you keep working off the clock. Don't get paid for it. Okay. Why? How much time do I have left? 3 minutes or something? 5, 4, okay, here we go. Why are these things happening? You can tell from my age I'm not young. It's okay. I'm still alive. I can still fight. Okay. Look, I grew up in the period when the United States was in the ascendancy, right after World War II, right? The United States came out of World War II. The rest of the world had the mess bombed out of it, right? The United States came out of World War II, and it was in much better shape to produce, right? So I grew up in the period when people could go into the mills on the south side of Chicago and get a job. Those days are gone. The days of the United States being the ascendant imperial power are gone. They are now in competition with other capitalists all over the world. And the way they win that competition is in what's called a race to the bottom. They try to drive down the working class, lower wages, increase the pace of labor, get as much product out of the worker for as little pay as possible in order to compete with other capitalists who are all over the world who are doing the same thing all over the world. That's the nature of capitalism. It's about profits for a few capitalists, not about the needs of the working class. Now, the United States devotes a tremendous amount, U.S. capitalists devote a tremendous amount of the resources that exist to war. Some of you may have family members who are currently in Afghanistan or somewhere else overseas. The United States capitalists send people to fight in their wars. They have money for war, not for schools. Shut Oak Forest Hospital, they don't have money for health care. They threw people in Oak Forest Hospital onto the streets, knowing that they would die. These were people who had long-term needs for care. That's the nature of the capitalist system. That's why I'm a communist. Wait, what do you mean you're a communist? What is communism? Communism is a society run by the working class and for the working class. Communism is a society based on the needs of workers. It's a society where labor is shared, where everybody works not for money, but in order to contribute your abilities to the rest of the working class, to the rest of humanity. That, I propose, would be the best human life. A life where you get up and go to work every day, not for a paycheck, but for the good of other people. That in a communist society, based on the sharing of labor, there would be reason to develop the abilities of every single child. And everybody's abilities would be contributed to the good of the rest of the working class. That's the nice part of communism, but there's more. The not so easy part of communism for people to accept. In order to make these changes, we must fight. In order to make these changes, we must fight the racism and the racial inequality that divides the working class. How much time? Less than 30 seconds. Okay. In order to make those changes, in order to create a communist society, it will require not only fighting racism, it will require uniting the working class into an army and overthrowing this system with revolutionary violence. It takes a civil war to destroy the power of the capitalists and replace it with the power of the working class. In order to make these changes, it takes a revolutionary party. And I'm a member of a revolutionary party, Progressive Labor Party. I brought our newspaper challenge. I invite you all to get a challenge before you leave today. We brought plenty for everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Gomberg. Dr. Callard, you have 10 minutes.